Your test will be your testimony.
Yeah.
Your mess will be your message.
Love it. Love it.
You're listening to Musings with Morales. Brought to you by Dialysis Education Services.
Welcome to Musings with Morales. This is Morales. We're here again. We're kind of kicking up the frequency of the podcast for a short time here, really trying to tap into some of the things that are most important to us, really the foundation of why we started things here. Everything nephrology, dialysis, kidney, health-related, heavy emphasis on the nephrology and the dialysis relations, and kind of taking a look at the things that are important to people who are undergoing dialysis or may have in their near future a prognosis of needing to prepare to go on dialysis. And then what has been really near and dear to my heart since I entered the workforce, educating people on what's important when you're caring for individuals who are on dialysis or who have different stages of kidney failure, different stages of kidney disease. So happy to be here with you all. I got to tell you, we're breaking new milestones here, and we have really tapped into a platform called Restream to spread our wings and tap into all of the social networks that we have here. So I see a few of you from different networks on. Please feel free to say hello, tell us where you're from, what your involvement in the space is, how you found the channel, who you've liked as far as the guests that you've seen on our channel, and maybe who you want to see, or maybe you want to be one of the guests with us and jump in. If you're feeling like chatting tonight, then please send us your email and we can go ahead and send you a guest link. I'll have Paco's behind the camera over there. As always, Paco Chaga, good friend and our producer, but he'll send you over a link, and let's found really everything from the history of dialysis. And I wanted to just kind of pick up where we left off. We were talking about in the 1960s, these committees that individuals who needed treatments like dialysis had to face. They had different names for these committees. Today we might call them a bioethics committee, but back in those days it wasn't uncommon to hear them called as a life or death committee, because they were really choosing between people who needed the therapy on which individual would get the very rare and scarce seat for dialysis, which essentially means if you get dialysis, you can continue living, and if you don't, then you would eminently face mortality. So it's a terminal illness, and it was a terminal illness. It still is, but we're in a much different place today as far as the availability of dialysis to individuals and the route to gaining access to insurance and to care. So we don't necessarily have these committees that are making those decisions for individuals today, although we may see similar committees in different sects of healthcare. So again, to pick up where we left off, just to kind of think about how dialysis was evolving in the 60s, there were individuals that had to face these committees. Not everybody got picked for dialysis. And the ones who did not get picked dialysis, I'll throw the recommendation to watch a video called Who Shall Live. It's on YouTube, y'all. To watch that video and really understand what people faced prior to the United States law or enactment of an entitlement to offer benefits to individuals with end-stage renal disease to Centers for Medicare and Medicaid benefits. So you could qualify for Medicare if you had kidney failure today. But back then, there's a story of a young lady that kind of triggered a movement that we're so passionate about today of helping individuals avail care at home to empower them to provide the care themselves in some cases, or have people who love them, maybe a son, a daughter, a husband, a wife, a spouse, a friend, to be their care partner at home. So home dialysis. It kind of started out with a young lady who was denied dialysis through the committee, and a group of just really passionate individuals, including Dr. Belding Scribner, went to work to devise a method of doing dialysis at home. Got this young lady at home, and then, it wasn't uncommon to see dialysis pre-Medicare enactment or entitlement that were doing dialysis at home. And it's been said that about 40% of the patients who did dialysis prior to Medicare enacting the entitlement did it at home. We mentioned in our last meeting here that today that number is probably in the 13 to 15% range of individuals who do dialysis at home. And it does offer a lot of beautiful benefits versus getting dialysis in a dialysis treatment. So maybe some of you out there are on dialysis, would love to hear your stories of whether you're on dialysis now, were on it in the past, if you've got transplants, if you've been on peritoneal dialysis, or in the rare occasions that, some people actually have a regaining of their kidney function. So would love to hear those stories. And just want to say hello to everybody who's chiming in. Maria and Denise, welcome. Hey, first time here. Helen, that's actually my mother-in-law. So I'd love to see you all on the podcast and participate in this educational moment. 1972, there was a very monumental event in healthcare where, here's the story. This Senator Vance Hartke made a statement that 60% of the people on dialysis would return to work, but they require retraining. And most of the remaining 40% would require no retraining whatsoever, so they would actually be able to go right back to work. There are people who can be active and productive, but only if they have this life-saving treatment, and that's absolutely true, man. I think that maybe the missed assumption in that case was that 40% would just go right back to work, that the remaining 60% would be able to go back but would require retraining. Not sure what those numbers look like today, but I know that's definitely not 100% of the patient population that is working for various reasons, whether it be advanced age and retirement already, or it be the limits of the condition itself, having a chronic condition and having some form of a disability, or maybe even a inconvenience in the time to be able to hold a job, because let's face it, going to a dialysis center 3 times a week, most people don't come out feeling like energetic and ready to go jump into a 9-to-5 job, or ready to go to work right after. Anyways, there's often this expression of a hangover after dialysis. So in some cases, it might be a whole day down when an individual's going to a center getting dialysis in a very fast fashion, very aggressive as far as fluid and electrolyte and waste balances in the body. It's a lot of work to get done in those single 3 to 5 hour treatments. So again, in 1972, this was basically the sales pitch, guys, was that, everybody's going to go back to work. And I wish it were that way. I would say also that I've seen a lot of benefit to an individual's life when they're able to continue working despite their kidney failure. Again, I would ask the question to individuals out there who's on dialysis, and are you still working? Did you have to find a way to maybe open your own business, to do some sort of remote work, something that you can do even while you're on the machine, or did it simply put you in a place where you had no other choice but to stop working and fall on a fixed income through either Social Security or something like this? It's a really a trying time, and I got to say that when I think about work, it's really important to me. Not because necessarily I like to work, although that might be a little bit true, but I like what I do, and it's important what I do. I help maybe one person every now and then. When I delivered care, I helped a lot of people every single day. But when I'm in the positions that I hold today, in owning businesses, in helping to commercialize businesses, to consult for businesses, on a rare occasion, I find that I really make a strong impact in somebody's life through the information that I put out or the method that I share. So I love it. And if you took that away from me, I'm not sure what I would do with my time. I think, when it comes to competition, right? A lot of people say, like, who's your toughest opponent, right? I don't know, any of the fighters that we've had on the show in the past. Quite often, I think I've heard from their story that their toughest opponent was them. They were always trying to compete against themselves. And, when I sit to my own devices, it's kind of like, well, what's purpose in life if I'm not helping others? So, when it comes to this Entitlement Act, it was a monumental event. The sales line that we just saw that everybody could go back to work may have been misassumed, but I think we should definitely have discussion on how do we help individuals who are still good candidates for work, still want to work. Maybe it's still important to them for peace of mind, or maybe you got a bunch of kids like me and some grandkids, and me and Paco got teams together, right? If we put all our kids together, we can make like construction crews or football teams or something like this, right? But maybe you've got a lot of people to take care of, and you feel like the best way to do that is to put your nose down and have a 9-to-5 or own a business or something along those lines. Again, in 1972, all of that was presented. In 1973, we actually saw the enactment of the law where people who had end-stage renal disease were entitled to Medicare benefits. And today, that's the majority, the majority payer for individuals who need dialysis or who are undergoing the process of transplant is to get reimbursement or insurance through Medicare or Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. They call it CMS. Mm-hmm. Now, it's broken down. So when you think about CMS, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, we've got Medicare, which is a national, federal fund, but then you've got Medicaid, which most states have some sort of Medicaid program. Like in California, we have Medi-Cal. The way that the cost breakdown was shared between those two entities, Medicare and Medicaid, was Medicare will pay for 80% of the expenses. Medicaid will pay for 20%. So that's an important fact when finding yourself in this domain of end-stage renal disease. It's like, if I have kidney failure, how am I going to pay for my care? And if I'm a dialysis technician or a dialysis nurse or an administrator of a dialysis facility, how are the individuals that I'm caring for actually availing these services? It's through an entitlement, a benefit that is through Centers for Medicare, Medicaid Services. And we're lucky we have it, but we actually are undergoing quite a bit of reform or rethought around how the government pays for these therapies, because they're actually disproportionately expensive compared to other types of chronic illnesses in the United States or other avenues of healthcare. So that's an important thing to be thinking about. I mentioned to you guys that prior to Medicare paying for things, and this is interesting, if we think about like the way that things were before Medicare paying for things, only people who had some money to lend towards the research, which was about $10,000 a year and 3 years up front, who maybe lived close to a research center and met all sort of criteria, could get dialysis, right? But at that time, when people were paying for themselves, which this is really, mind-blowing for me, 40% of them did it at home rather than in the centers or in the research centers at that time. Actually, about 90% of the patients at that time did much longer treatments than what we do today. They did 8+ hours, extended nocturnal treatments. It really led to, like, if you think about it, your kidneys work, 24 hours a day, 168 hours a week. And when you get dialysis, the less time you spend replacing that function, the more complication you have. So those extended treatments actually were really beneficial. And a lot of people were proponents of that, who were the early starters, like the kind of the first patients on dialysis. Whereas today we average somewhere probably between 3 to 5 hours on treatment. I'd say maybe 4 is the average nationally in these centers. And another thing that happened is, when Medicare started paying for things, Now we have, like I said, maybe 13 to 15% of the dialysis patients that are getting dialysis at home. At home. So much less than it was at the time pre-Medicare. There's a lot of initiative to empower and provide the tools for people who need dialysis to do it at home themselves with a care partner. And I can tell you personally that I've seen the benefits on one of my loved ones undergoing home dialysis, and how he was able to really achieve a lot more than probably most people, even those who are not ill, can achieve, from the way that he raised his family to the type of activities that he did. I mean, I can still think today, I'm 47, and I don't believe that I did as many things in my life as my uncle did. And he was on dialysis for most of his life, home dialysis. So he really was able to dialyze around his life rather than being stuck and kind of chained to a chair every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. He built his schedule around his life, and he got plenty of dialysis, but it was just a much more flexible than most people are able to enjoy. So yeah, we've seen a decline in the home utilization, with the incline or the increase of a lot more patients over the years, of course. We've also seen now, rather than research centers and dialysis happening mainly in hospitals, to kind of brick and mortar outpatient clinics where you can probably, in most cases, guys, I'd guess that you can pick up a rock and throw it to a dialysis center from your home. There's that many of them, right? You go through a city like Long Beach, and I couldn't tell you how many, but it's definitely well over half a dozen clinics in a single city. So yeah, just curious if any of you guys have like really, really far clinics that make it difficult for you to get access to care. So dialysis has shifted to clinics rather than the home over the years. They've become very assembly line type of machines with shifts and start times and end times, and a lot of focus on the throughput. And we know there are a lot of great technicians and nurses out there working in the dialysis clinics. It's a tough job. There's a lot going on, people moving through, and with a lot of complexity in the requirements for their care. Dialysis is just a singular aspect of managing life at this point. A lot of people have to manage type 2 diabetes, hypertension, other cardiac issues. And in case you guys don't know, when you get to any segment of healthcare where it's chronic, post-acute, geriatric, you start to see a lot of mental health as well, comorbidity. So that makes care even more complicated. Guys, reimbursement has been pretty slow to catch up with technology and the need. So over the years, I'll just keep this short. When Medicare started paying for things, it was structured much differently than it is today. There were line items. There was a cost plus environment to where if you provided care, you could get paid for kind of the time and motion of that, the supplies of that, plus an add-on to that. It underwent a couple changes, mainly in a composite rate, trying to kind of pocket everything into one payment. And most recently, which not so recent, we entered into something called a bundled payment system, which means basically that if an individual is, let's say, very young and doesn't have many medication requirements, doesn't get hospitalized, maybe take that part, just medication, doesn't require a lot of ancillary type of care like medication, labs, time with social worker and dietitian. But then we have another patient that really overconsumes all of that, has a lot of medications, requires a lot of blood work because maybe their blood work is, or their blood values fluctuate a lot, maybe requires a lot of assistance from social workers and dietitians. The bundle payment says that you get paid the same. And that makes it challenging as an operator, right? If you're a business and you say like, something that takes me a lot of time and a lot of resource, I get paid the same as something that doesn't take as much time and much resource. the providers, the companies that we get dialysis from or that we work with, they have to find creative ways to deliver quality care and the expected outcomes, which is so important when you're getting reimbursed from an entity like Medicare. So let me change the topic a little bit. I would like to talk about this really confusing term, rehabilitation. It's needed in so many areas of life and healthcare, right? When I think about my career as a dialysis technician, which started really young, before I was a professional, I helped a person at home that, in my eyes, like, I don't have too many men in my life, like male figures, right? My father and 2 uncles. That's kind of it. I had my grandfather, one grandfather. So I'll say, those 4 people, they all, like, they're drastically different people. But I see them all as superheroes for different reasons. And I'll tell you that my uncle, like, he was a young man when his kidneys failed. Big, strong guy, mechanic, worked on hot rods and boats and stuff like this. And I never knew anything different. That's just what he kept doing, even though his kidneys failed. He kept living his life. He did not work, guys. His wife was a nephrology nurse. She was a great earner, brilliant in her knowledge base of how to take care of people who have kidney failure. And she basically taught the family how to help out. So I grew up around this guy, and like I said, he did all kinds of stuff with us that you wouldn't guess he's had kidney failure. He'd go horseback riding and jet skiing and sailboating and shit like this that just like, well, you're supposed to be sick. No, he was out there kicking ass, man. Like, so I never saw him as needing rehabilitation. I kind of saw that he did more than most people. So, rehabilitation, when I think about it, I don't have a good gauge with my uncle, but I have a good gauge with the patients that I've worked with over the years. They quite often, I would say, in the larger percentage, I've seen like a decline in ability and activity and sometimes even forgetting of hope. Like, I'm doing dialysis because I want to do this. Whatever that is, right? Like, what's the one thing that if a person shows up to dialysis?
What?
They want to live. And I think it's important to ask yourself, like, why do I want to live? Or why does the individual that I'm helping, and, like I see Erickson with us, I know he's a dialysis tech, or at least he was, unless he's changed his career. Like, why am I here? Why am I doing this for you? So I can help you to live, right? So I can help you to live. And when I say help you to live, guys, what does that mean to you, help you to live? Does that mean like you're breathing and your heart's pumping in your blood? Is that all it is? Or is it you're alive or you're living? Because it's draining process and taxing on the body. Yeah, it absolutely, from my observation, is taxing on most people. From not just my observation, but the testimony of people that I've worked with, befriended. Yeah, it's taxing. Mindset's huge, right? And like I said, is if they want to live, I think, or if you want to live, I think it's important to question why. Like, why do you want to live? Because I have something to do is typically the answer, or I have somebody that needs me. Richard said that, everybody is somebody, right? So I think when we think about taking care of ourselves or individuals that need our help to get dialysis or different sort of therapies, that we should be thinking about, like, what are they trying to do with this therapy? What's the goal? What is success from this, right? So rehabilitation, let's take a dive into this. Like, we don't, in dialysis centers, we don't just clean blood, right? Yes, that's like the primary, I guess, service through dialysis, hemo or peritoneal, is to replace the excretory functions of the kidneys and, yes, clean blood. But what have I lost when my kidneys stop functioning? I've lost that ability to clean my blood of excess stuff like fluid and waste and electrolytes, and even balance out my pH or potential of hydrogen in my blood. But I've also lost a bunch of hormone functions. And when I lose function of my body, I don't care if it's like I lost the ability to run because actually I lost part of my foot. Like, did I only lose part of my foot, or did I lose also my ability to run and balance and a lot of other things like this? And maybe did I now gain some pain or others, right? So when we talk about losing the functions of the kidneys, it's not just cleaning blood, guys. It's a whole lot. I mean, if I lost my time, which is required to replace the function now, maybe I can't work. Maybe it makes it hard to work. Maybe I lose time with my family. Maybe that compromises the relationship with my family, just like work can do, right? You work too much, you can compromise the relationship with your families. So, again, we're not just there to help clean blood. We want to help them to live, to live first, dialyze somewhere down the line of things that they do. I remember this guy, it's my uncle. His name was Greg. He'd talk a lot, man. He talked a lot. And he was a smart guy. He read a lot. He watched a lot of TV. So if you talk to him and say, hey, Greg, what do you do? What are you about? And he'd be like, well, I like to do this. I build engines for hot rods, and I race boats. I can't race them, so I have somebody that raises the boat, and I like to go do this kind of stuff with my kids, right? And you'd never get like, well, I do dialysis until way down the line of that conversation, which I think is kind of king. Like, hopefully more of our patients can, when they talk about themselves, they got a lot more to talk about than I'm a dialysis patient, or I go into this facility and get two big needles stuck in me and sit there for 4 hours while my blood circulates out of my body, right? There's a lot more to life. This is just a piece of being able to live it. Question, is there some aftercare or care within the process to help them gain quality of life after treatments? And this from Casey Kasaya. So is there some level of care to help them gain quality of life after treatments? And,
Or during.
During or?
Within the process.
Within the process. Okay, so, I mean, let's think about dialysis, right? Like, I go in Monday, Wednesday, Friday, let's say morning, say 8 to noon, something like that. I get out and I'm kind of burnt out, so I go take a crash nap. I'm asleep till 8 p.m. maybe. Then I have a snack and I watch some TV, and then I go to sleep. And next day I feel pretty good, but pretty much Monday, Wednesday, Friday I'm out, right? So that in itself is something to look at and say, is there a better way? We talked on Wednesday about time and frequency of receiving dialysis, the location of getting dialysis. I mean, what's harder? Get dialysis, be tired, and have to get a ride home, or get dialysis, be tired, and go upstairs to your room if you're doing home dialysis, right? So that's one avenue. But then there's a whole social component to caring for anybody with any chronic illness. This one has its own unique challenges. So yeah, we need social workers in every dialysis program, whether it be a facility, a home program, a skilled nursing facility. Like, we need social workers, and they have to be active, and they have to be good social workers. They're masters of social work, licensed clinical social workers. They have their hands full. And then on Wednesday, we also mentioned that there are a lot of forums and lifestyle type of groups that individuals can reach out to find people that are going through the same struggle. And in most cases, those type of forums offer up kind of champions, right? Like people who, let's say, have rehabilitated. Like, hey, I had kidney failure, first 3 months, I was in the center and I was so tired and I couldn't work. I lost my job. Then I found home dialysis. I'm just giving an example. I found home dialysis and I started doing it at home. My energy went up and last month I got a job, right? Those success stories, you don't hear about them every day. So I think it's important to go out and chase success. You know what I mean? Whether it be like you're an entrepreneur, which I know Kasaya is an entrepreneur. Like success doesn't come to you, right? But also these quality of life, these, whether it be chronic illness or just trying to stay mentally, keep that zen, right? Keep some peace in your life. It doesn't come by itself. It doesn't just fall in your lap to have peace. So I would say resources, Kasaya, like we have healthcare professionals and then patients and families need to, one, make it their business to find them and share them. And if we have these success stories, then we should absolutely share those as well. So we help people to live. Part of living is, hey, you have kidney failure. What did you used to do before kidney failure? What are your favorite things to do before kidney failure? Are they any different now? Do you still do those? Right? What's a good example? I mean,
Can I still play drums if I'm on dialysis?
can I play drums if I'm on dialysis? I would say absolutely yes.
Really?
Would you have? I mean, I've watched you play drums, and it seems pretty taxing on your body.
Yeah.
So would it be different? Probably. Would you maybe have to find ways to build your stamina back, or to maybe not do things that would hinder your stamina? Like maybe you drank too much fluid before your show, before you're playing your drums. You might be really short of breath, right? So yeah, there's ways around things, but there are challenges, right? And typically when you're trying to get somewhere, there is going to be a challenge, right? When something's important, it's usually not easy, and you got to find a way to. Who was it? Who we had here? I think Sam Mahmood told us we got to find our hammers.
Yeah.
To break through walls. Right now, he wasn't talking about kidney failure; he's talking about entrepreneurship. But yeah, we got to find our hammers to crack through walls when we find challenges. And when you mentioned Justin, Paco, when I think about Justin, like everything he says, like, man, entrepreneurs want to hear that stuff, but it's coming from a different lens from Justin, right? Which is pretty cool. So, success stories. We've had Sam Trevino on here. We've had Luz Lopez. We've had Justin Pham. We've had Richard Cabrera. And all these folks share with us stories of victory. Some of them that are their own, and some are stories that they have observed. I've always said since I was a kid that it's okay to steal stories and share good stories with others. Because the thing is, when I'm trying to tell somebody like, hey, life can be better, or life can be what it was, or, you have to take some small steps to get back to here. Like, I sound maybe like a hypocrite, or like, who are you to be telling me that when you don't even have an example of it? Like, have you guys heard that term, you don't know adversity unless you've experienced it? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, how could you know what it's like to have broken your leg? You've never broken a bone in your body. How could you know what it's like to have kidney failure when you've never had kidney failure? And yeah, man, if you're a professional, you don't have kidney failure, yeah, how could you know? So I think it's really important to study the individuals that we work with, not just in arm's length, but who's out there telling stories of success that can be an example. I think about the people I mentioned and others, Michael and Christina Gilchrist on live on dialysis, who are sharing a lot of great stories, that life can be beautiful, that love can be found again, that you can take trips, that you can be a champion despite having this setback in life. So success stories are important, but of course, as professionals, we have to maintain the confidentiality, right? We're bound by these rules and HIPAA, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, to not to keep basically everything that we encounter with an individual that has their protected health information private, secure, confidential. So what is, I have kidney failure, and I think in the past couple casts, some of the questions that come out are really around, like, how do I get answers, or how do I find support? So if I'm a doctor, if I'm a nurse, if I'm a technician, if I'm a medical transport driving dialysis patients back and forth to their appointments, I want to encourage and empower them to find answers, to learn, to be a student of their own condition. Do you guys believe that patients know themselves better than doctors? Do you believe that the patient knows their body better than you and I?
I would like to believe so.
You would like to believe that you know your body better than the doctor?
Yeah.
So can a doctor tell you that you're feeling good if you're feeling bad?
Actually, I have a friend who doesn't think that he could come back to work after being on disability. And yet, the doctor wouldn't approve an extension on disability, saying he's okay to go back to work. Can you imagine?
Yeah. So what was the outcome?
He had to go back to work,
Shit.
feeling like crap.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we talked about this last week, that a lot of time there are kind of protocols, there are guardrails set around, like, what's your problem? Okay, this is how long you got, right? And I've been in that position before, not with kidney failure, but to where I had to tell the doctor, like, listen, let me twist your knee around, or, do the same thing that's going on with me. Let me do it to you and see how long you want off. Okay, here's 2 more weeks, right? Or here's 3 more weeks, right? I think, we have to be our own advocate. And that's something that I've seen my patients in the past sometimes have a challenge with, to where, you know what, hey, I have no problem. I'll put on the bad guy hat, or I'll be the one to raise hell for you, because that's what I'm here for. I'm supposed to be an advocate, whether I'm a tech, nurse, doctor, right?
We have a text question. Can I read it to you?
Sure.
Okay. What do we do in cases where patients who are in isolation, like, for example, someone who has C. diff, in a dialysis communication sheet given to the patient, states that she is just on prophylactic antibiotic treatment? Will dialysis still allow them to get dialyzed on their scheduled day?
Okay, so the infection is, again, C. diff, you said?
Yep.
And will they allow them to get dialyzed? So, yes.
So on the sheet, on the communication sheet, all it says is patient states prophylactic antibiotic treatment. That was it. So there you go.
Yeah, so one, infectious disease is not a contraindication for dialysis. So if you have an infection and you have kidney, you still need dialysis.
On the scheduled date.
On the scheduled date. Now, the methodology behind isolation precaution, depending on what that pathogen is, could be drastically different. If you were to go into a dialysis center today, one of these storefront outpatient centers, there would be one thing that would be isolated in a room. That would be hepatitis B only. Everything else would be out on the floor in the general population. Now, after they dialyze, there may be some sort of unique precaution, like the method of disinfection. While they dialyze, depending on what it is, there may be different precautions of, maybe they put them in a chair that is not proximal to an occupied chair. So, like, maybe they're not around anybody, or they're at the end of a loop. But best method in preventing any sort of cross-contamination, the type of PPE, and whether it is discarded immediately, like in the case of lab coats might be another factor there. So again, depends on what the pathogen is. With C. diff, there would not be much different than the norm.
So, follow-up question, because you mentioned PPE, also to people who are just tuning in, listening for the first time. You used to be an administrator in a nursing home.
Yeah.
So now the follow-up question is, now that COVID is once again emerging in nursing homes, do you think they still have COVID-designated dialysis centers like before, or should there be?
I don't know of any, what did we call them? Well, COVID units, basically, but that are existing cohort facilities. I don't know of any currently. If I were to say the approach kind of post the peak of pandemic till now with COVID would be to get as many patients as possible to be able to dialyze in their home environment. Whether that be a skilled nursing facility, which we talked about on Wednesday, instead of transporting them back and forth, which, by the way, people in skilled nursing facilities are very immune compromised. So sending them to a dialysis center could be dangerous, right? They're around a bunch of people that are also immune compromised. And then it's kind of like two immune compromised communities, the nursing home community mixing with the dialysis facility community. So I would say that's the biggest approach towards protecting individuals that are on dialysis from COVID, is to really look at keeping them at home in the nursing homes, or actually getting people to adopt home in the case of, like, I can do it myself or my care partner can help me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Who was that from?
Joy.
Joy. Hi, Joy. All right. So, we want to point at resources. If we're going to point at resources, we got to know them, right? Yeah. We can't be like, I heard there's a website, or, I'm sure there's a book out there written on this stuff, right? We have to be students of the stuff that is important to the people that we love, that we care for. And I say that, like, whether you're the care partner of somebody who has kidney failure, you got to be a student. I'm sorry, guys. That's part of the contract that we have with the people that we love, is that we will take on part of their care one day, right? In some cases, full care. We got to learn some stuff. And if I'm the person suffering from kidney failure, I should learn as much as possible. It's tough because maybe you're not in that position at any point in your life where you have to be a student of something that really carries your life on the line. Kidney failure, that's the circumstance, right? You have a complex disease process that requires a routine treatment that is also very complicated and complex. So, hey, there's a lot of stuff going on. You should know what those moving parts are. You should know what techs do, what nurses do, what social worker does, what a dietitian does, what your nephrologist does, what your interventional radiologist and your podiatrist and your cardiologist, all these people are there for different reasons. And it's kind of like if you could just understand the value of these individuals in your life as a professional or a patient, you would have superpowers, right? Because you got this whole damn team around you that is fighting just for you. Tap into it a little bit. Take what you can. Be sure to acknowledge when you're not understanding things, and when you need more help and you need it in another language, you need a picture of it, you need a video of it, whatever it is. This is the type of things that should be and are available to you if you're a dialysis patient. And guys, if you're the spouse of somebody with kidney failure, if you're somebody with kidney failure, if you're a professional, you should celebrate success. When somebody's blood work, when my blood work comes back looking great, man, I should celebrate. Maybe not in a bad way, but not with a bunch of chocolate or a drink or something, but with something that, a nice dinner with the person who's helping you keep on track, right? Mm-hmm. Like that one who's, maybe going shopping with you, or co-cooking meals or cooking meals or whatever it might be. And we should empower and be empowered. When we learn, when we make ourselves a student of this process, then we understand the treatment. When we understand the treatment, then we understand the benefits of the treatment, and we also understand what's the other side of it, like the consequences of not getting it. We understand the complications of not getting good treatment, which I've seen many times where patients, they come on time every time they get their dialysis treatment, and when their blood work comes back, there's still a lot of issues with it. So that can be that can be challenging, that can be discouraging even. Like when you're trying your hardest and you're not getting the desired result, why not give up? Right? Or why don't they give up? If you're the one on the other end of the needle, the nurse tech, like why does the patient not give up? Do they give up? Sometimes they do. Sometimes they just throw their hands up and say, this is all too difficult, so I'm just going to live my life carefree while I can. What do we do with that? How do we help an individual who is coming to dialysis? So what do you know again, guys? You know that they want to live. And now it's getting so tough and so discouraging that maybe they're not paying attention to the things that are important. I've heard people say about patients, because I'm sitting on the other end of it most of the time, right? That, that patient doesn't care. So yeah, sometimes we'll hear that, like, the patient doesn't care. And like there's this foul word that a good friend of mine, and by the way, the executive director of the core curriculum for hemodialysis technicians, Dory Chattel, if she ever heard the word non-compliant come out of a professional's mouth, physically she would probably become very disturbed. And she would vocalize something along these lines. Dory, if you're watching, I'm just trying to paraphrase, but, it's not non-compliant. It's a challenge in management. And whose job is it to help people to manage? It's mine. It's yours, We see people that we want to call non-compliant or that they don't care. We have to say, no, what's in the way of adhering to...
Text.
Oh, okay. Yeah, what's in the way of adhering to the advice that I'm getting, right? Very cool. Jimmy Quinzon. We on with Jimmy, Paco?
Yes.
Hey, Jimmy.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm okay.
Thanks for joining in with us every week, man. I really appreciate all the insight. Would you mind introducing yourself to everybody and share with us the person who's usually in our comments sharing, like I said, a bunch of wisdom?
Okay, let me introduce myself. I'm Mr. Jimmy Quinzon. I'm a good friend of Paco Aris Paco Chaga. So we've been friends for a long time, and sometimes I play with this band also.
Oh, you play also?
Yes.
Very cool.
Yes. So, but I've been through dialysis for 9 years and 8 months. And can I mention the clinic where I go through?
You're still going to the clinic?
No, not anymore.
Okay, I think that's fine then.
Yes, yeah. I've been through. I went through the Beta in Glendale.
Okay.
Because
you're local
that's
to us.
the nearest clinic that I have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a transplant last May 4 of 2020.
Man, congratulations. How do you do the hand claps on this thing, man?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, congratulations. Do you mind me asking, how did you go? How did you acquire the transplant, Jimmy?
I enrolled at Cedar Sinai by the advice of my nephrologist during the time.
Mm-hmm.
But since I'm O positive, I have to wait. That waiting time will be around 9 years, I was told. So yeah, I waited around 9 years and 8 months, but I got a cadaver.
Amazing. So cadaveric donation, you waited the long list, which,
Yes.
for those of you who don't know what that list entails, is like you got to qualify basically to get on based off criteria, and then you got to stay on it by the criteria as well. So what that tells me, Jimmy, is you you had at least 9 years of really paying attention to stuff and
Yes.
making sure that you could stay on that list. So Jimmy, you did hemodialysis for 9 years, or did you also do peritoneal?
I did the 9 years as hemo, and then the last 8 months I tried the PD.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that's when I got a call after doing the PD for 8 months.
So you did
Yeah.
the hemo in the center in Glendale, and then peritoneal dialysis at home on your own with your spouse.
Yes, I also did a hemo at home.
Oh wow.
The reason is, my daughter is a dialysis technician also.
Okay.
So she told me, Dad, why don't you try the hemo at home? I'll be your dialysis tech every time I went home from work. But it's harder. For me personally, I prefer the hemo on clinic because
Really?
you have nurses there and there you have the technician.
So let me ask you, did your daughter keep to her word and give you the treatment at home?
Yes.
And
She's
I would
the
love
one
to have you both over here, Jimmy. I think that would be a great conversation with you being in the center, then going home, and her helping out, and you having PD. Man, you kind of cover so many avenues of understanding and sharing what really we're trying to put out there. So you have an open
Yes.
invitation, man. Like when you guys can make the time, one or both of you, please come out and join us.
I will, because right now my daughter doesn't work with the beta anymore. She shifted her job after my transplant. She's working as a software engineer right now.
Oh wow, wow. Well,
Sorry.
we should talk in other ways as well, because depending on the software, like I might be able to point her in a couple directions.
Yeah.
Very cool. And it
Yes.
looks like you got a lot of
Yeah, but-
cool art behind you, man. Like,
Oh yeah, he's an artist.
Yes, right now I'm doing paintings. I have my TikTok account, Instagram. I'm promoting my brand, myself as a painter.
what's
doing portrait
what's the
painter.
handles, Jimmy?
Pardon?
Jim Art. Is it Jim Q Art? What is it?
Yeah, jimqartworks.
Okay, yeah, maybe we can drop that in the comments, and because I've been
Yes.
checking out your page as well. So it sounds like you've got, like, in relation to this rehabilitation that I'm talking about, right? 9 years, but today you got a transplant, right?
Yes.
How's life different, Jimmy? And then how much did this kind of stuff, like understanding the treatment, taking an active role, becoming more empowered to do things like to try the home and try the peritoneal, how did that lend towards where you're at today?
Okay. When I started doing dialysis, immediately I had to take in information about my sickness. How do I get sick? And what are the options available? So I actually thank the staff on the Beta, because they give me the information I need. Plus, my transplant hospital, which is the Sinai. And because I really want to live, I still want to see my children grow up, my children get married. So I always think positive, and I have a good support system. One is I'm involved in church, my faith. Secondly, I have so many friends like Paco. He always texted me, "How are you, brother Jimmy? No depression, okay?" So I have those friends that always remind me, because it's really hard being on dialysis. But the more information I get regarding my sickness, I become very involved. I become a spokesman of the Beta in Glendale.
Oh, really?
Because yes, every time somebody visit the clinic, they will call me Jimmy. Okay, you'll be the spokesman, and then explain to them. And then I always hear my social worker, not to bring up myself, not to be very boastful. No, they told me, Jimmy, you're one of our model patient. Because I want to convey to the patient on that clinic to be positive.
Yeah,
Be
no.
compliance. Yeah, because I've seen a lot of patients, they just want to die. They don't want treatment. They'll cut the treatment. They're very grouchy. They're always shouting their technician. But for me, I love my technician. I love my nurses, because these people are keeping me alive. depression. I was so stressed with my job, and a lot of things. A lot of things are happening in my life before. So I was really down, and my blood pressure was fluctuating. I always forgot to take my medication. So yeah. So suddenly, it's shut down, and then that's it. The rest is history.
If I'm hearing this right, you had anxiety, depression that led to some blood pressure problems. You had
Yes.
then to take medication, which it's now that's a new thing, right? You got to take medication, and you had some issues in managing it that then led to
Yes.
the kidney. Okay, got it. I mean, that's
Yes.
a very truthful expression of what happened. And I think it's important for people to understand that like in this case, you were managing your health, but even challenges in managing health can lead to the outcome that where you ended up, right, which was kidney failure. And Jimmy,
And yes.
when you mentioned something that just kind of stopped me in my tracks is that you said I want to live, and then you kind of expressed what living is, which I'd love for you to kind of dive into that a little bit more of, like you gave us a really brief summary of it, of your faith in God, your children, your grandchildren, the things that you want to see. But can you share a little bit more about that, and whether or not Paco mentioned the importance that your spouse had in keeping your head up, but were there times where did you forget that you had things to do, and that there were memories that needed to be made, and there's a reason why you were going there, and did somebody remind you or smack you, or how did you get through that?
Yes, because we're still human being. We still rely on what we see and what we feel. Yeah, I have so many events that I wanted to give up, and but yes, my wife, my children, and again, my deep faith will always remind me, no, Jimmy, you have to go on, because for me, if I stop my treatment, it's like suicide, and I don't believe in suicide based on what my faith is. So I was telling God that if this is my time, then get me. But if not, give me strength to go through this problem. Yeah. But yes, I have so many episodes that I really want to give up. But first, my wife and my family, who's always supportive, and they give me really hope in living. Because I value life after I had my dialysis.
So Jimmy,
yes.
You said that you asked for the strength, and then the follow up to that was that you had your wife and your children,
Yes.
which made me say that, like, or made me think that, like, you had the strength all along, like it was built in already to your life, but there are a lot of people who maybe don't have that, right? I've had patients who don't have the support network. They, maybe they don't have their spouse anymore, or maybe they never had a spouse. Maybe their kids are all gone and don't care, or there's a reason why they don't care. So do you have any best advice for somebody that's in that position? I think I can probably guess, but somebody who doesn't have anybody or feels like they don't have anybody, and how do they get reminded that they got stuff to do, they have memories to make?
I do have two patients that I call my contemporary, because we came in together, and both of them doesn't have any family. They're broken, and unfortunately one died because he doesn't want to open up. He's always a close person, but the other one made it through because he reached out. Okay, yeah, he doesn't have family here. And a few friends, but he reached out especially to the social worker, and the social worker helped him, give him information, and I'm sitting beside him. We always talk. He will cry with me, I will cry with him, so I become his advisor.
Yeah.
So although he doesn't have friends, he doesn't have an immediate family, but he opened up. He's not like the other guy that he already closed his door, and he's really distant. I don't want this. I really want to die. So my advice is, it's painful. I've been through that, but don't close your door. listen to the advice of your social worker, or like this channel. You giving us so many information.
Yeah.
And also, yes, to add up acceptance. Because the reason why a lot of patients, they cannot accept the situation. I've been through that. It takes me a couple of years until I accept my situation. Okay, I'm already here. What shall I do? Do I want to die or do I want to live? You have two options. I want to live, so what shall I do? So I become very, very positive.
That's really great. I don't know the name of this guy on. You just brought him to my mind, but there's this guy on social media. He's like an older Irish or Scottish boxing coach, and he did like some sort of reel recently, and he said, you know, they say, and it's similar to what Egan said to us, Paco, is like, you know, at a certain age, you go like, hey, I'm too old for this, you know, I can't work out, I can't go surfing, I can't do stuff like this, right? And I'm just thinking about how many years ago did you start dialysis, Jimmy?
That was September 9, 2011.
2011, so 13 years ago?
Yes, 13 years ago.
Man, that's a long time, right? If you would have,
Yes,
if you would have given up back then, like, just curious, man. What's the big highlights? Because you said you had stuff to do. What have been some of the highlights in the 13 years?
Oh, so many things. First of all, I've been through 16 surgery.
Wow.
6 are major surgeries. I had 6 pneumonia. I even had a pleural effusion. And they sucked the water at the back without any anesthesia.
Oh, gosh.
Only local. So I was really crying inside the small room. And I really couldn't count on my hand how many times I lost consciousness while on dialysis. I thank God my wife is always there. Immediately she knows, Jimmy. She will immediately call the technician. Yeah. So many events in my life that I can say that it will be that I'm like, oh, I'm dying. And I even did already my last will. I already wrote down, okay, I think I'm going to die. Okay, this if I die, this will be my list, okay? This will be my speaker during memorial service and those things. Yeah.
I want to say hello to my daughter, Camila. She's an educator and licensed vocational nurse, and she's just, I think she's getting her mind blown by your story here, Jimmy. I'm glad that we got the chance here.
Thank you so much.
Please stay on with us as we walk through some of these, because I think that you can definitely speak to this, you know, understanding your treatment, true testament right here.
Yes.
Jimmy, thanks for, you know, jumping on right here, because it's one thing coming from my mouth, right? But it's another thing coming from somebody who's lived 13 years post kidney failure. I'm thinking that's your artwork back there, and I already want to buy the one that's on the, you know, close to your shoulder there. It's beautiful. So, you know, you've got family, and I'm sure the memories beyond passing out during treatment and all those sort of surgeries, that there's so many beautiful and happy moments as well. So understanding and taking an active role in your care is really important, guys. You know, understanding the treatment so much that, like I said, when you used to go into the center, or when people go into the center, right, it's kind of like they step on a scale, some of them, and then they get this weight, and then, you know, somebody will write it down, then they walk over to the chair, and they kind of go put their arm out and go like, here you go, just do what you got to do, right? But then some people go like, hey, you know, it was a little hot this weekend, and I drank like too much water. Would it be possible that you maybe take off another half a liter more? You know, understanding how fluid's sitting in their body and how they feel about it, and making recommendations behind what they can do. Yeah. So taking an active role, suggesting fluid goals, which technicians and nurses kind of go into sometimes just robot mode and say, oh, this is how much they weigh, this is what we're going to do. Just really customizing and listening to the patient voice and expressing your voice. Did you ever have any times where you took that part on, Jimmy? And what about cannulation when you were at home? Did you put the needles in yourself?
No, first of all, let me answer about cannulation. No, I'm actually afraid with needles.
Me too. I mean, you can't tell, but
Yeah, I hate that. So my daughter is the one. She's really good, even on buttonhole.
Okay.
She's number one. But let me go back to the first question. Yeah, understanding more information about dialysis. I'm reading a lot. I'm watching videos. So every time I go to the center, I immediately know how much I gain.
yeah.
And I'm very compliant, especially with fluid. In even the food I ate. I'm really like all on the tea. Plus my wife who is monitoring the fluid intake I'm having and the food I'm eating. So yeah, every time I go to the clinic, when I weigh in, I always talk to my technician, and I always have a good conversation with my nurses, even my NP.
So Jimmy, I got a dumb question for you, but my wife likes to put a lot of sodium and food in my belly. That's her style, right? She likes to feed her family. Does that mean that if I needed help with fluid and diet, do you think she would do the same thing, or would she keep killing me the way she is? I'm just kidding, man. I think I know the answer, but
Yes,
we have a-
that's true.
Guys, Mark Diaz has a question. He's also currently on dialysis. He is in the Philippines.
okay. So
Maybe you and Jimmy can.
all
address
right. So let's. How are you, Mark? And thank you for joining us. I'm also a dialysis patient, 8 years this August. Good news since in the Philippines, starting July 1st, dialysis is free in all centers, including dialyzer filtration, injection of EPO, laboratory once a month. This is a good news for all Filipinos. So, Mark, I was blown away. I was there at the end of February, and I visited facilities in a couple in Marikina and one close over in it was in Quezon, but
Quezon City.
yeah, but I mean, everywhere you go, you're going to see, it's really exciting. You're going to see signs that say free dialysis, right? And which is monumental. But the other side of that is that it is politician driven, right? So free dialysis, and then you'll see about 4 or 5 politicians' faces next to the free dialysis sign. So every town you'll see it, right? And tell me if I'm wrong, Mark, and maybe Jimmy, you can speak to this, or Kasaya, I know you do a lot of business out in the Philippines as well. There's a healthcare entity called PhilHealth that will pay a portion of this, but that would not be enough to sustain life. It wouldn't cover very long, wouldn't be enough money to get the whole job done. So then and again, correct me if I'm wrong, then there are allocations on the local government that then they could use for things like paying the rest of that cost. So then it's termed free dialysis. So Mark, is that the experience you're seeing with the free dialysis in the Philippines? I'll give you a chance to chime in there, but also I can tell you that my visits to those centers, I was, I guess, pleasantly surprised by the quality of care that was being given in the free dialysis center. I mean, they were brand new dialysis machines, beautiful facilities. Marikina is a beautiful, I think, in my opinion, a beautiful,
Oh yeah, it's very
nice little town. It was at the sports complex, and shout out to my
Yes.
friend Bong Bong over there who's running the facilities. But I think that's great. There's a lot that goes into this care besides just the machine. There's the medications that when he mentions EPO, that's actually a very expensive medication that has been a pain point or a bottleneck in healthcare even here in the United States.
And it's free now there.
And it's free now. Yeah. Now, I would, again, hopefully we can get some more comments on this to get a little more insight on it. But I would challenge to ask the question is, would it cover all the treatments you need in a year, or a certain number only? Would it cover the treatment time and frequency changes that are needed to achieve what's considered adequate dialysis? But again, my trip to the Philippines last February, I was thoroughly impressed and inspired by what's going on there. PhilHealth is now paying for everything. No more copay from the patients. This is implemented on all centers, public or private. It's now free. subsidized by PhilHealth. That's super exciting, guys.
Wow. Yes.
Super
yes.
exciting. It was more prevalent than I thought it would be. I actually saw a lot of dialysis centers in the Philippines. Guys, why is it that there's a good representation? And I think, Paco, we shared an article. Melissa, by the way, hello. She said, Jimmy, she nominates you for president. But there was an article that she shared with us the other day. I believe it was 7 million Filipinos worldwide suffering kidney disease. Maybe Melissa can chime in there on that. But any assumption on why there are a lot of Filipinos that are having kidney failure, and maybe what we could do to bring some awareness around some of the contributing factors? Food?
Yes. Yes, correct.
Too much or too tasty? Which one?
Too tasty.
Yeah, too tasty. Mark is all
Yeah.
over it. So
I cook that. So low sodium.
So, Jimmy, did you see my when I told the story about my wife's adobo and how I was introduced to low sodium? The whole bottle of soy sauce in a single dish. So, I was like, okay. And then she asked for more. So Mark says, 156 treatments, which, that covers the gamut, guys. That's 3 treatments a week, 52.
Wow.
52 weeks in the year.
Yeah.
Super exciting news.
Wow.
I'm looking forward to hear more about that, and I would guess that the country's in for a lot of innovation and modeling around dialysis centers with that sort of subsidization. So fluid goals, self-cannulation, you talked about it. Jimmy, you're scared of needles. Not everybody's scared of needles. Mark, I'm curious to know your experience with the needles and who you like to be the one to put the needles in you. But it's definitely, when we think about home, Jimmy, it's actually one of the big barriers for families and patients to adopt the home modality because they feel like that's just too much, right?
Yes.
You're lucky you had your daughter who's a pro to put those
Yes.
needles in. So what about keeping fit? If you're, whether you're rehabilitating or just getting old, like it's something that you got to think about, right? Or maybe you don't want to get old. You gotta think about your fitness, right? So when we think about kidney failure, whether it's us who experience or individuals we're caring for, there's a value and an expectation of keeping active. Now, we got a picture of people, super fit, running up there, which is probably not most people out there, but like, what's keeping fit? Like, well, I used to be able to walk my dog, right? My parents love to walk. They have a big Belgian Malinois dog. And, they're older than me, of course. I have 3 English bulldogs. I never have to walk them because when they walk this, they're snorting and having a heart attack. But how important is that to you, Jimmy, Mark, guests in chat? How important is it to you in keeping fit with kidney failure? How important is it to you in maintaining wellness, in keeping your mind level? And, maybe you find some therapeutic, some people call gym therapy, right? Maybe you find euphoria. We've heard some guests that talk about the euphoria that come from different sort of physical activities, especially like the, ice bath stuff. I've heard that the amount of dopamine that is released in an ice bath is like hours versus like what the amount of dopamine from something like cocaine would be, maybe a half hour. So people who are chasing highs, like they should just go take ice baths, right? So what do you guys do? How do you stay fit? Do you stay fit? Is it something you think about?
Okay, let me answer first. Yeah, first of all, when I started dialysis, I normally weigh around 75 kilo.
Okay.
When I started my dialysis, I went down to 63. So I'm very, very skinny. So it took me a while. I think around 3 years when I started walking properly because I already have a walker during on the few months I'm doing dialysis. But anyway, when I started walking, I never go to gym. My wife, we just walk around our area, walk our dog. And then I still active, like I don't sleep, like staying in a bed a lot. And then I still continue doing, because we have a stationary bike here. So my doctor always telling me that if your lungs is weak, your heart will be weak. So make sure at least work out with your stationary bike. So, and then I have also like a very light dumbbell just to gain some extra extra muscle on my hand. But I never go to gym. The reason is because I already value life. I really want to live. So my nurses there and my technician, my daughter, my wife always telling me, oh, you have to take care of yourself. I know you're compliance, but walk. Let's walk. Let's walk. So just walking for me.
Some people, that's like a job for them and a lifestyle for them, and others gotta like, hey, I need to get fit, right? Or I need to improve my health. I'm not feeling good. I'm gaining weight. I'm having a hard time walking. Whatever it is, right? How important is it? Because you mentioned that people would tell you like this is important. If they didn't tell you that, would you do it?
Oh yeah, I still have to do it because during that time, I already I came to terms already. You know, I already accepted my case. I already accepted what's going on. So now my mode now is to keep myself alive and to keep healthy. So that's the reason why I started walking again, and then started cooking, and then I started going. I just want to be like active. Not like some of my patient friend, when they go home, they just sleep. They become like potato clouds and not to compliance.
Very nice.
So even though I won't get an advice from outside, but I'm already decided to keep myself healthy. It wouldn't be like chunky, but at least healthy.
Yeah.
Because when I sign up for transplant, I want to make sure that all my labs will be good and I'm strong enough for my surgery.
Yeah. Good. You kept it right in the front of your mind that if you don't keep
Yes.
healthy, that transplant is not possible, and you fall off the list. That really
That's true.
complicates things, right?
Mark's statement, he shares the sentiment.
Yeah, same thing. Walking, some dumbbells, and I like that he says, like a normal person. Hey, you are a normal person, Mark. And
I like
work
that,
and
yes.
travel and have fun.
But my question is, what are the points of anxiety that will hinder you or discourage you from thinking life will still be normal? I'm glad that Mark actually is doing daily activities. Sometimes I would see him on social media. His brother would say, please pray for Mark because Mark did it too much.
Oh, you know Mark personally?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So-
He drank too much or something?
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the reality, right? It's like too many bottles of water. Even I had a patient. She happened to be Filipino. Her and her husband used to come into a center I worked, and she was the most compliant person with her fluid. When I say compliant, she really restricted her fluid to what the doctors had recommended and the dietitian had recommended, and they like to gamble, you know. Yeah, I don't want to say it because I can't say that, right? But yeah, they like to gamble, and they went out to Pachanga one week, and it was hot. It was summer,
Okay.
and she drank like a little bit more than she normally does. She actually ended up in the hospital with congestive heart failure, and it was not anything that was crazy. It was just more than what she normally did. So, yeah, it's it's a disciplined life, and good advice here, guys. I think about not having kidney failure, and then just like when and if I go to the gym, like if I had a trainer, I'll do a lot more than I would have alone. And it's kind of like an extra push, right? Somebody just like, hey, no, one more, 10 more, whatever, stuff like this. Or somebody go like, hey, where the hell are you at? Like, you're supposed to be here an hour ago. So in life, outside of illness, fitness is important. And then I think that the network that we have in reminding us, and Paco and I have had conversations about this of, like, it's the friendly thing to do, man, to talk to each other and say, like, hey, you got to take care of yourself better.
That's true. That's true. I believe that.
So what about a job? We heard Mark say he keeps a job, right?
Yeah.
That's important, yeah? So I haven't had many patients that are still working, to tell you the truth. But the ones that I did have who were still working, they kind of fell in a few different buckets. They work like normal type of jobs. When I say normal, like 9 to 5 or certain hour type of jobs where they had to report on these days, and they typically would come to dialysis on the last shift of the night, dialyze late, kind of miss a bunch of stuff in the day. It was just very challenging because, all day work, then come to dialysis, right? I have had patients that were like financial advisors or real estate or stuff like this that are sitting on their phone or their computer the entire time, and they're actually working while they're on dialysis as well. So they're not held to like 9 to 5s, right? Creatives, people who make websites, stuff like this. And that might even be something that some people have to do, is kind of look at, well, I used to work out as a carpenter, from 6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. or whatever it is, and that's not going to work for me anymore now. But I can still, man, today's like the age of, what do you call this? Remote jobs, right? Be an affiliate for a program, things like this. So I think there's a lot of things. Mark's a part owner of a company, so another entrepreneur here, rental events, and he can be absent. He can be absent, and not everybody has that luxury, right? So that's something we have to acknowledge that people are going through. I got to say this, aside from work, jobs being important, like maybe we need to define job, right? Because job doesn't just make money, yeah? Like you got a job to take your dog to go pee outside.
Yes.
You got a job to maybe drop off your kids or your grandkids to school in the morning and pick them up. And I think about so many times I've had patients that they show up every day late. Every day to their treatment late. And I can think about people I've worked with that, I want to believe everybody got good hearts that I work with, but sometimes they just don't use their heart first. And they go like, oh, you're late. And then they start pointing fingers at people, and maybe they even label them as non-compliant, and, they don't care because they can't show up on time, right? And quite often they don't ever ask them, why is it that you're late?
That's true.
And I think about it my youngest son is 10, right? And he goes to school. It's a little ways from our house, but even if you live pretty close to our house, we're going to take him to school, walk him, drive him, whatever, right? If I had to be at dialysis at the same time my son starts school, I think I'd probably be late to dialysis. And then nobody ever asked me why I'm late. I might just be late to dialysis every day and not get my whole treatment, right? But if somebody asks me, hey, why are you late? And I say, because I have to take my son to school, I'm going to be late every day. What should happen? Any experience with this, Jimmy, Mark, on the schedule's not working for me because I got stuff to do that's important. Can we shift it? Any experience with that?
Oh yeah, let me answer that first. Because during the time I already started working as a freelance graphic designer. So more than half of the time I'll be working at home, and the person who hired me knows that I'm going to dialysis, so they adjusted my schedule so I can finish first my dialysis. If I cannot go to my office, I just call them, okay, I'll just work at home. So yeah. So
again,
most of the time I will just go to my office when I needed there for meetings, or if I'm going to shoot, because I also work as a food photographer for that company.
So I mean, hey, I'm a fan of entrepreneurs, right? I think it's it's the way to go. But this is maybe another reason why people should be thinking hey, own your business and own your time, because there might be a time where you can't own all your time. And by having that, I'm going to call it a luxury, but it's something you worked for, Jimmy, and Mark as well, owning a business. Not everybody has that. And it might mean that I don't have a means to take care of my family anymore. And let me just tell you what, you want to shut me down, just chop my legs out from underneath me and just say I'm useless, is take away my ability to put food on the table.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what else drives me as much as that. Like, I want to take care of my family. So the reason why, Mark Diaz, the reason why I'm still alive even after 8 years is because I'm very compliant, never late, never absent for 8 years,
Yes.
and I take all the medication rigorously. Man, you're preaching at a choir right here, Mark. I've never experienced a chronic illness like this, but I'll tell you, that's my ethic at work and life is like on time every time. And, you know, you might not take a reward today, but look at you guys now. You know, many years later, those small efforts of discipline have got you to be able to tell these stories and share really a lot of wisdom. And this is really cool, man. Somebody from overseas in the Philippines, Jimmy in Glendale, same experiences, different access to care. Mark sharing some really exciting stuff. But yeah, keeping a job, guys, important for dignity, important for finances, important for
That's
like,
true.
you know, especially for some people, for being kind of like the head of the household, right? Like I got to be able to bring that in. Yeah. Hi, Jaja.
Yes.
Speaking of judges, she has a question. Maybe you guys can answer. She wants to know if dialysis care centers, maybe here in the Philippines, if Mark wants to answer also, have their own nephrologist on site, or do they still have to call the patient's nephrologist for further orders or stat orders? What does stat mean?
Like,
to those who don't know.
A stat is like an urgent order, something that needs to be done now. Draw labs now, start a medication now, do a chest X-ray now, whatever it is. And yeah, the nephrologist is typically not on site 24/7. It's not a operational mandate in an outpatient dialysis center. Now, hospital, of course, there's got to be attending nephrologist.
Yeah.
But in an outpatient setting, no, they don't have to be there. They have to round their patients. They typically see them once a week, either themselves or through a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant, and often they're utilizing telehealth today for those visits as well. But there is a lot of oversight, Jaja, on how often and that the nephrologist is seeing the patient. As far as calling the nephrologist, I think maybe an experience from a nursing home and a dialysis center would be much different. If I'm not mistaken, Jaja, you have a lot of experience in the nursing homes. Yeah, it would be a little bit, it would be a faster turnaround if you called a dialysis from a dialysis center to a nephrologist versus a nursing home to a nephrologist.
Interesting.
So, guys, you know, when we were little, we all grew up, or we all dreamed of growing up into something, and maybe even when we are 47, we're dreaming about being something still, right? You guys seen the Jim Carrey acceptance of one of his awards, and he says something along the lines of like, I'm Jim Carrey, 2-time Golden Globe Award winner. And I have a dream, I dream of it every night, something like this, of being Jim Carrey, 3-time Golden Globe Award winner, right? So, you know, maybe we're at like I said, I'm 47 and I got dreams that I didn't have when I was a kid. I can say that injury and illness would probably put a bottleneck to some of those dreams, right? But dialysis, we've heard from many in the past in this podcast that it's not the end of life. For some of them, they found actually a new leaf and a meaning and a purpose in life. But patients, people can follow their dreams regardless of chronic illness, injury, disability even. What does that mean to you guys who are with us today? What does it mean to follow your dreams, to dream big and to actually execute on those things? What does that mean, and what's needed to get that done?
Right now, especially after my wife, before my wife died, one of her parting word with me is, Jimmy, don't forget your passion. I know your passion is painting. So just paint right now. So my children also supported that. I become full-time painter right now. And so right now I want to be a testimony about what being a dialysis patient and how to overcome that. It's because I believe that your test will be your testimony.
Yeah.
Your mess will be your message.
Yeah.
Actually, next year I'm planning a 1 month show, catering. My main message is kidney awareness and organ donation.
That's awesome. You got to share that with us. I know we've got a lot of friends that would love to support that. One of our good friends, Sam Trevino, when he was undergoing his journey towards transplant, he actually, him and his wife kind of knew a lot of local rock stars in the Texas area, and they actually threw a concert that assisted in helping him with kind of the downtime and being able to financially absorb that downtime from the transplant. So, yeah, you got to let us know about that, Jimmy. And Mark is tapping into the question about the nephrologist being on hand, which, man, Philippines is just really stepping it up. And
I was going to say.
Holy moly, man. They actually have a nephrologist on duty all the time.
Oh, wow.
Which is, again, unique. Now, it's important to not be too judgmental of, let's say, the American healthcare system in that aspect, because when we talk about the means of reimbursement and payment for things, the wage index, stuff like that, to keep a dialysis facility operating in the United States is a very expensive thing, with a very small margin, if any, in actual net profit. And it's because of the reimbursement system that, we can have many, many conversations about. But guys, it sounds like you're living the dreams that were set out for you. I know that entrepreneurship, there's a lot of purpose that comes from dreaming. I do it because I always wanted to do this. I do it because I want to help people. And I love the new purpose that you're finding, Jimmy, through your art and through the music as well. So guys, we'll kind of pull away from the rehabilitation discussion, but just curious on the wrap up of your thoughts. Can life get better after kidney failure? And that goes for everybody who's on with us right now, or anybody who watches the episode down the line. Can life get better after kidney failure? And if you got a story of how it has gotten better, please tell that. How did it get better? Everybody I've met, at least through the podcast here, that has told their story, I feel like this new purpose, or this maybe the purpose that they never asked for, has brought something to their life that most people won't get to feel. And it might seem like a plight in life, right? Like, why did it happen to me? I don't know why I think of this saying, but they say, well, if not me, then who, right? Does that ring any bells for you, Mark, Jimmy?
Yeah. If I'm going to answer that, before my transplant, when I came to the terms of acceptance, and I'm being more positive, and I'm seeing that I become more the spokesperson of the clinic.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, maybe that's why I've been going through this also. And I started talking to other patients to be more compliant, to be like really be positive, to care about their life.
Yeah.
So it becomes like a ministry to me during that time. So I was thinking, although I'm also suffering, but giving a positive advice to another patient, that made my heart healthy. And I see the light better, the color of the rainbow, if I can say that. So even though I'm struggling during that time, another purpose came inverted during that dialysis time. And then right now, I'm already transplanted. So yeah, it went back to normal again.
So like in Jimmy's case, he's been transplanted. In Mark's case, he has to go to dialysis 3 times a week. In your case, Mike, you've been exposed to all different types of patient, positive, negative, wants to die, wants to live, right?
Yeah.
What is the takeaway if you're able to accept your condition without being transplanted. What is the takeaway, Jimmy, after transplant?
I'll speak on that, and then definitely would love to hear from Jimmy. But the best way I can, because you're right. I think it's like, well, I have this routine, this lifestyle of dialysis. I have this community even. 9 years, Jimmy probably has people that, he, maybe they're still friends to this day, right? But, you spend a lot of time with each other, with people in dialysis centers, right?
Yeah.
And I had this old guy, I've talked about him quite a bit because he does funny stuff like eat half a cantaloupe and, put on a bunch of fluid from eating a whole flat of grapes. And this guy, he got transplant. And once he was through his kind of quarantine phase, he came to the dialysis center. And he hung out all day. Well, like when he normally dialyzed. And then he showed up the next time, which is the normal day that he dialyzed, and he hung out again. And then, this kept going on. And eventually the staff had to say, you know what, we really love you, man. But, we got to help you find new things, new circles. You're always welcome to come pay us a visit, but this is not healthy for you to just keep coming back every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So, what my takeaway from that was like, man, a lot of these people we form relationships with stronger than our family. And when we lose those relationships, we miss each other. Like it's a void, right? So for him not having that conversation with me and the nurse, and, it's like, well, who am I going to tell all my fables to, right? Jimmy?
Yeah, okay. First of all, because 9 years and 8 months that I need to wake up like 3:30 with my wife. So until now, I have to wake up. My body clock.
Still on that,
already,
huh? Yeah.
Yeah, until now. And I miss my wife so much because we wake up together. And then it so happened also right now after transplant, my nephrologist his clinic is nearby the Bita. So what I do after I visited my nephrologist, I swing by the Bita and just to say hi. But I miss the people around there. And then most of them are my Facebook friends. So we are connected until now. Yeah, I miss that community. But as you said, I have to move on. And right now I have another group in TikTok. We are mostly transplant patient, and we're sharing our thought about it.
I'm glad you said that. So we've got a friend, Justin Pham. You've probably seen him on with us. He's on peritoneal dialysis, and it just seems that TikTok is really a platform where communities are forming, like common communities. So, right back to it, please share the community, because definitely there will be more people that follow through with us. And if there are a way for them to fall into a group of people that are sharing advices like you are, I think it'd be very healthy. Now, remember that, everything we're saying here is really for a community perspective, and that it's always important to get the advice and consult, and even sometimes get second opinion, but with the actual professional that's responsible for your own care, right? Everybody's story is different, but I think we've talked about some really high-level things today that would help a lot of people, and it's not, so granular that it takes risk of superseding what their doctors would tell them, right?
Mark has something.
That's true.
So, guys, last point, and then we'll make some. We'll do just kind of a last.
Mark said something.
Yeah, last comment here. So, Mark again pointing out what's going on in the Philippines, and transplants is about 1.2 to 1.5 million pesos, which translates to
Divided by 50, so 1 million is $20,000.
$20,000.
1 million, so
Okay.
so approximately 30.
About $30,000 for the transplant. Okay. And, I think definitely maybe another day we'd love to talk about where these organs come from. Hey, I'm not making any assumptions, but I've seen some documentaries, and then, I'm sure there's living donation as well. So definitely something to take a look at, right? But guys, it's been really, really inspiring to have both of you speaking from the perspective of individuals who need the care or who have needed the care and experienced different modalities. A lot of good guidance on how to navigate, how to take the journey. And I love what you said that about the test. So can you repeat it again, Jimmy, just so we can take that one home with us? The test is
Your test will be your testimony.
yeah.
Your mess will be your message.
Love it. And I've heard other ways that are kind of like trying to say a similar thing, but we're all set on this destination, right? But really the destination is within the journey. And
Yes.
what you go through is
Yes.
in the end, when you get to the end road, what's going to help these people? Like you've helped so many people, Jimmy, Mark. I think
Yes.
you've definitely helped me and the audience to understand what life is like for you and what's going on in the Philippines. And I'm excited to hear more about it, actually, from the Filipino community, to understand how care is changing in the Philippines and kind of do some comparisons and, not to say, hey, we're better here, we're better there, but just to look at, what's the best type of care for individuals that we love. Paco, Jimmy, Mark, all of you who
Thank you so
commented
much.
on us tonight, I want to thank you for chiming in again. We'll see you
Thank you
next
so
week, Wednesday, and we'll be right back on the live stream. We'll continue on the stroke of working through educational topics that are important to people who care for people with kidney disease, or to those that are suffering it, or to those that are in the immediate familial or home network of those people that could eventually become care partners and wake up in the morning and push to do the right shopping and push to take the walk or lift the weight or get our ass out of bed and get to treatment or whatever it might be, right? Again, guys, thank you so much, and hope you enjoy the rest of the holiday weekend. We'll see you next Wednesday.
This episode has been brought to you by Dialysis Education Services.